We good?
Yeah, we're good.
So probably the thing I'm most proud of is the resiliency we showed again when they came at us, because we knew they were going to come at us. I mean, VCU has so many years of winning that at some point we knew they were going to come at our throat a little bit. And, we kind of popped them in the mouth again after they got it close, and then we kind of let them back in it again. So, but we're still a developing team. We're not all the way there yet, but you could see like some growth and some. I thought the first half defensively was the best we played all year long. And we did some really good stuff. The beginning of the second half was no good, but RJ Gunn's ability to stretch the floor really helps us, and that's partially the reason that Trey Clark can get to the rim easier, because if you don't guard RJ on the perimeter, he's going to make. And so the combination of him and Trey Williams at that 4 spot really has helped us.
Coach, since you always start with defense, I'll go another way here. The center rotation, you've been playing Reese a lot, and then Rotrov and Barre kind of sliding in behind him. How have you been able to try to figure out the balance between those guys and David Dixon, who are all talented players?
Well, we need to get Dixon in the game. There's no question, but I'm having trouble getting any of them in the game, to be perfectly frank. I went with Barre because I thought that he would do more around the rim defensively than the other two. Rotrov's the best rebounder out of the bunch, and probably the most consistent. And Dave's probably he's probably the wild card of the bunch. He's really talented. I think Reese is, how do I say this? I think Reese may be the worst of the 4 defensively as far as blocking shots and coming to the ball. He shouldn't be, but he is. But he's the best offensively by far, I think, right now. So it's a tough juggle. It really is. And at some point, we'll probably have 4 miserable guys because none of them will be happy. But you just got to be happy with winning. That's the bottom line.
Keith, when you have obviously Trey having played for VCU before, how do you maybe walk that tightrope of letting him have those emotions and the game come to him and just finding some way to make that work, or do you leave that up to the player?
Well, I've never had a guy throw the ball off the backboard, which drove me nuts, but with Trey Clark, you got to live with some of his nonsense, because his nonsense is both good and bad sometimes. He's really good at some things, man. Like they have a team full of athletes, and he looked like he was on another level. They could not keep him in front. And every time the game got close, he made an unbelievable play. And I'm happy for him, and I talked to Coach Rose, because we're pretty good friends, before we took Jimmy, and he gave him a pretty strong approval rating. But when people go through some things in their life, that redemption factor is a big thing. I think that's one of the reasons he came to Duquesne, was he wanted to play in the Atlantic 10 again. But I'm proud of him. He's been a really good player, like really good. But most importantly, he's been a really good guy, man. He's been unbelievable to coach. He's fun to be around. He loves the game. Him and Day stay after practice every day. So he's been a real pleasure for me.
Keith Rams had 1 assist in the first half. You had that 6-minute scoreless streak. How were you able to get a pretty veteran team so out of sorts?
Well, we didn't turn the ball over in the press. So, we had 10 turnovers in the first half, but they were all in the half court. They couldn't press us, which is kind of their deal, but they kind of havocked us in the half court. That's their mantra. And we didn't do a very good job. We let them back in it because we didn't have the ball very good in the half court. But we did an unbelievable job of not turning it over, which allowed them not to get into transition, which is half their deal. And then what makes them go is Ace Baldwin. If you look at the stats, their assist to turnover numbers are bad other than him. And so what we did is we tried to stay at him. And if you cut the head off, the body has struggles. And so that was pretty much our game plan, is trying to contain him. And I thought we did a really good job. He's a really good player. He's one of the best guards in this league. But we did a really good job on him.
VCU came into this game on a 5-game win streak. Just how are you able to stop a team who's playing arguably their best basketball so far this season?
Well, we got up to a good start. That doesn't hurt. You know, we kind of stunned them with the 3-ball early, right? Like we kind of hit them in the mouth. They've been able to out-athlete people at the 4 and the 5 spot, and we have a lot of bodies. So, you know, we didn't do a particularly good job on Brandon Johns in the second half, especially. But in the first half, DeLoach has been scoring in double figures every game. He didn't get. Now he had some foul trouble, but he didn't do much. And so it's a tribute to our bigger guys. We have a lot of bodies, though, that we can throw at them, and we're a little fresher probably than they were, which is a strange statement when you play VCU because they're usually fresher than everybody you play because they play a lot of guys.
Hey Keith, how pleased were you with the defensive effort on Baldwin tonight? It wasn't a one-man job. You utilized something of a committee on him with Trey, Kareem, and Tevin all seeing time one-on-one. Just what made you decide to take a rotational approach with that, and how do you think it panned out?
We really didn't. We really didn't go into it with a rotational approach. We were going to play Trey Clark on him, but then Trey got the 2 fouls. But those other 2 guys are tough little guys, man. They took the challenge on, and then, you know, we did a good job with our big guys on the ball screen too, where we kept him to his right hand, which is a big deal. And then you can't give him open threes. He's a good 3 shooter. So we did a good job on him, and I think that was the key to the game. If he has his normal game, we're probably in trouble.
Coach, you mentioned before when it comes to Tevin Brewer that he could be a 15-point-per-game scorer for you guys. With the emergence of Jimmy Clark averaging 17 games his last 8 and Day with his standards, has his role sort of changed where he's just more of a facilitator? You might not see 15, but you can get 8 to 10 and 5 assists. That'll work for you?
I think he could score when he wants to score. I don't think he's all the way back yet. You know, that's why I keep giving him breaks to make sure he's fresh when it matters. And that's the beauty of Kareem. You know, Kareem goes in there and doesn't hurt you. McGriff had a relatively rough night, but overall he does a good job too of spelling those guys. But Tevin will have some nights where he scores. You know, that 3-headed monster with those 3 guys out there, you know, that's a pretty good threesome. A little small, you know, when you consider, you know, we're playing Day on their 6'6" guy, Watkins. You know, a little small, but Day rebounds, and so does Trey, and Tevin will stick his nose in there. So yeah, I think Tevin will have some nights where he scores. But I think those guys, both him and Day and Trey's probably won the most out of all of them, you know, as far as with the junior college and then being at VCU. But Day and Tevin want to win. They're tired of not winning at a high level. And so they still have some work to do. Like, we have some work to do still to become a little sounder, but I think they just want to win, and they like each other. That's the other part.
You played RJ Gunn primarily at the 4 tonight. You played him at the 3 a good amount last game. How do you feel about him defensively? Because obviously Trey Williams is known as a defender, but when RJ is in there, do you feel good with his defense, particularly whenever you have to switch?
So when we got in foul trouble the first half with Trey Clark, Day, and Tevin all having 2 fouls, we went to RJ at the 3 spot. RJ's going to work, man. He's a really good worker. And last year when I said he was a good player, everybody looked at me like, oh yeah, he's just talking. But RJ's a really good player, man. He's more than just a guy that can shoot. He's strong. He prepares like a professional. I can't be more happy for him because that was a miserable season for him last year. And he's been through a lot of injuries. He tore his ACL too at Lenore-Ryan. So RJ's a good player. Again, like, is he as good a post defender as Trey Clark? Maybe not, but he may be a little bit better on the perimeter. You know, and he's strong, man. He got himself in unbelievable shape. He's down. His body fat is way down. And even with the injury, when he sat earlier, he still maintained it. just tells you a lot about his discipline. He's probably the most disciplined guy we have on the team.
Coach, so your comments about the defense tonight were very similar as they were after the DePaul game, calling it the best defensive half you guys have played all year in the first half, but then being frustrated with how you finished on that end. What's the next step moving forward to playing a full, great defensive game?
I think we still have to learn how to play with the lead. You know, we're so new that, like, sometimes it looks like it's a three-ring circus out there, both ends. You know, and then other times we look like we're the Harlem Globetrotters. You know, so we're gonna have our inconsistencies until we really totally figure it out. And it's a strange team because sometimes we look so bad and sometimes we look so great, but somehow they know how to win. Like a lot of teams when they would have given up that lead would have folded the tent, but they didn't. They popped them back. So you just have to keep teaching them. You know, keep teaching them, keep coaching them. We made some defensive mistakes, like we missed a switch on Schreiber. You know, you can't do those things. You know, we got driven in the first half. I thought we got a little tired. I think if we could play Day, Tevin, and Trey Clark a little less, I think they hit the point where it's the law of diminishing returns. You know, I think they'll play better if they play a little bit less. I think that was part of Day's problem in the second half. Just has to play a little less so he's a little fresher when it matters. And that's pretty much on us. We have enough guards to do it. But it's a tough game. You know, we're still trying to develop, so it's hard to go a little deeper.
Keith, obviously, stealing the ball will allow Trey to have some creative offense. What allows, is it just quickness? Is it anticipation? What has made him so good at stealing the ball for you this year?
It's not just us. If you go back and look at VCU, his steal percentage per minute was one of the best in the country. It's the same thing. Like, you have to live with some. Like, he's so unconventional that he'll run off his man, and every once in a while he'll give up a three because he runs off his man. But you have to live with that because you don't want to take that ingenuity away from him. You know, he plays with such freedom, both offensively and defensively, that I think if you put him in if you try to limit some of the things he did, I think you would hurt him. I think that's he couldn't play for every coach. You know, but he's good for me because I don't like everybody to do that, but he's such a freak athletically that you have to let him loose. He makes some plays defensively that I've never seen, really. You know, he's just so instinctive. Like, they threw it to not his man, but the other guy, he stole it. You know, the one he dunked. Like, just you can't coach that. That's just like crazy instincts. Now, sometimes those crazy instincts get him in trouble, but I think the good outweighs the bad. So, I like I said, I really like coaching him. Like I told him when he threw the ball away at the end, that's just him. I mean, you can't make a dumber play than that, but the game was over anyway, but I still would have liked to see him do it the right way, but that's just him. And we have a good enough relationship that we kind of tell each other the truth every day. And he's good about it. He doesn't like it always at the time of the, you know, when we tell him, like in the game, but he always agrees, which is all you can ever ask.
Everyone good?